45 Alpha Charlie Papa channel, and today we're going to look at some hammered doubles in the double-barreled shotgun.
How you doing, folks? This is the old gunsmith again, and I'm getting older every day. I have always had kind of a love affair with hammer shotguns. A lot of people don't seem to think about them one way or another. I see them as a snapshot in time. We went from muzzle-loading shotguns to cartridge breech-loading shotguns in basically overnight. And almost as soon as the breech-loading shotgun was available, there were hammerless shotguns available. But sportsmen being what they are, or Americans being what they are especially, they didn't really trust the hammerless shotgun because simply the hammerless shotgun, you couldn't see whether it was cocked or not. They had grown up with percussion shotguns, and of course they had a hammer, and you might have had a half cock or not, but you always knew by looking at the hammer whether the gun was cocked. So they didn't really take to hammerless shotguns right away. What they wanted was something they were familiar with. I have two examples here. One is a Remington 1884. This one happens to be a mild steel barrels. They are not Damascus barrels, but they are soft steel. So I have never gotten very crazy about shooting really high base loads out of them. I generally keep these for cowboy action shooting, and I generally shoot black powder out of them. Now, I know everybody hears black powder and they say, never mind, I don't want to mess with it. Quite frankly, in the cartridge shotguns, black powder is easier to clean than smokeless. And let me kind of demonstrate. You can simply take the shotgun apart after you've shot it. And obviously you can wipe down the actions and anything on the outside. Inside, all I will do is I will take some Belostol and water mixture. Belostol, if you're not familiar with it, is a water-based lubricant. You don't have to use that, but because it's you're dealing with black powder fouling, I like to use a water-based oil or lubricant. I'll take it in a spray bottle and spray it down the barrels and let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes. Push half of a paper towel down each barrel. Do it a second time, third time if I have to, and by then it's clean. And it's also oiled with the water-based oil. Now, if you don't trust that, you can always go and run a patch down each barrel with your favorite gun oil, and you will have totally clean barrels that will not rust. It doesn't really take anything at all and very little time to clean a black powder shotgun barrel, and loading shotgun shells for them is no more difficult than loading shotgun shells for anything else. So we have the shotgun back together and cleaned relatively quickly. It takes just a few minutes to clean it. So in loading the shotgun shells, you have a choice of several things. You can, and I have obviously, bought some Federal Champion paper shells, which is what was used back in the day. You can load them with black powder. Usually I'll use about a 50 grain, 55 grain load of black powder, 2F, and I'll put a regular shotgun wad over it, the Remington or Winchester style plastic wads over them, and with a shot cup attached. Put my shot in and crimp it and shoot it like any other shotgun shell. You can put a whole box of shotgun shells through the gun without doing any damage with lead shot using the plastic wads. The thing about the plastic wads is black powder barrels get extremely hot and they will scuff plastic off of them. So you'll find when you clean your barrel, your first swap down the barrel after you put the Belostol and water down it, you may actually get ribbons of plastic out from the shells. You can, if you don't want to use paper, you can use regular plastic hulls and load them like you would anything else, except rather than metering them through your mech or Pontus Warren or whatever loader you happen to have, you measure the black powder and pour it in manually. After that, you just run them through and load them like anything else. What you will find is you only generally shoot those once, because again, the black powder will melt the tips of the plastic, and sometimes you can reuse them, but generally not. So reloading for them is really no more difficult than reloading for smokeless powder, and cleanup is actually faster than it is with smokeless powder. So don't let the idea of loading black powder shotgun shells scare you off. I also make sure that I like to keep snap caps in the guns, not because I'm snapping them very much, but because I like to leave the hammers down and resting on the cushioned primer pocket of them so I don't fatigue the springs. Remember, these guns will be over 100 years old. They're old technology. They have V springs in them, no coil springs, and those will fatigue, so you want to leave them relaxed rather than cocked. Again, this is the Remington, and you'll notice the Remington has very fancy hammers. This is an English shotgun. This is a Montgomery shotgun made in Birmingham, England. It is not a London Best. I couldn't afford a London Best, and most likely you can't either. But it's very nicely done with engraving on the lock, and it's a very nice shotgun, beautiful striping in the stock. It's a very, very pretty gun. This gun was made in 1888. I know that because whoever the original owner was engraved his name and the date on the inside of the underside of the pistol grip. So if you pull the pistol grip off, you'll see there's a name in there and 1888. Going through on eBay, not eBay, I'm sorry. Going through and doing a search on Google, found Montgomery and got the dates they were in, and this shotgun was introduced in 1887. So one of the reasons that these hammer guns were made into the 1920s here in America and still are made in Europe, a lot of people still like them over there for whatever reason, but they were made here because, again, this was something that everyone was used to. You could look at the gun and you could see whether it was cocked or not. No half-cocked notches. And what they were used to doing is when the game was sighted or the bird went up, they would reach over and cock the hammers, and they would have their 2 shots. As I mentioned, at the same time frame, there were box lock shotguns available. This happens to be an old Parker Trojan, which was the cheapest shotgun in their line. The thing people didn't like about them, again, is that once you open and load them, they're cocked. You cannot decock them and let the hammers rest. The hammers stay cocked until you pull the trigger. Okay, and you can't look at it and see that it's cocked and ready to fire. Of course, you've got a thumb safety now that has to be pushed off, but people were just not comfortable relying on a mechanical device doing something they couldn't see. This is what they were used to. So for many years, this is what sold. Slowly, the box lock shotguns with the internal hammers took over the market, and now we don't think anything of relying on a safety rather than visually seeing where the hammers are. So that's just a short little primer on shotguns. I'm really fascinated by these because they were really popular for such a short time in history. Basically the 1880s, 1890s into 1900, and then after that they were going downhill. They had 30 to 50 years of being what everyone wanted, and right after that it just disappeared. And from then on, from about the 20s on, it has been the box lock. Nobody thinks much about a hammer shotgun unless they're shooting cowboy action or they're a history nut. So that's all I've really got for you on shotguns. I just thought you might like to take a look at them, get a little information on them, and maybe they'll fascinate you as much as they fascinate me. Until next time, this is the Old Gunsmith saying good shooting and good luck.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.